Member Dismore.
Thank you, Chair. The amendment tightens the motion to bring it into line with the People's Vote campaign. The clock is ticking and a Brexit no-deal outcome is coming ever closer. Hard Brexiteers will win by default. The Prime Minister is surrendering to her own Brexit MPs rather than producing realistic proposals that could form a genuine position to put to the EU. The negotiations should involve two sides, the UK and the EU, not Theresa May v Jacob Rees-Mogg. Even before the ink was dry on the Chequers plan, we had David Davis's and Boris Johnson's cabinet resignations, followed by those chaotic votes in a deadlocked parliament on the government policy and strategy in their white paper, shredding what little remained of the Prime Minister's efforts to find a Brexit she could put to Brussels. EU negotiator Michel Barnier soon buried Theresa May's post-Brexit customs partnership with the EU and warned that attempts to appeal to EU leaders over his head were a waste of time, the death knell for the Chequers plan. And the European Parliament's Brexit Steering Group has confirmed MEPs will refuse to vote for any UK withdrawal agreement that waters down commitments to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. When the original Brexit referendum was passed by a narrow majority, no one could have foreseen the disingenuity of the campaign, nor the complexity of Brexit, nor the impact on the UK economically, socially and politically. It's caused division and intolerance. The impact on London's economy is serious as businesses start to relocate. It's even worse for the rest of the country. 4 days after the Chequers deal, the Assembly's Economy Committee held a session on Brexit, and all the experts from whichever side agreed that this wasn't a comprehensive plan to protect our capital's economy and Londoners' employment, risking 90,000 jobs. 92% of London's economy is services-based, entirely omitted from the government's pitch. And where was consideration of migration and its role in the future needs of our economy and services? And what about the futures of the EU nationals in the UK? In London, we're home to 1 million EU nationals and UK nationals equally living in the EU. The impact on public services, especially the NHS, is dramatic, as specialist EU NHS workers return home or don't come in the first place. And only yesterday, the Police and Crime Committee heard from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner about the negative implications of a no-deal Brexit for policing and security, and their view that we'll be less safe as a result. We heard about the lack of progress on these key issues. Now, as they prepare for no-deal Brexit, the Met are even having to contingency plan for threats to public order due to food and pharmaceutical shortages. Food shortages not seen since the days of the U-boat campaigns and the world wars. They're contingency planning for disturbances at the borders and long delays at the ports. We will no longer be members of the European arrest warrant arrangements, yet only yesterday, Theresa May said she's issuing European arrest warrants for the Russians responsible for the Salisbury poisoning incidents. This motion is not to ignore the original referendum, but to allow, in the event of no parliamentary approval of a deal, or indeed no deal at all, the country to think again. Every 4 or 5 years we have a general election and the country can decide which party it wishes to govern for the next parliamentary term and change its mind if it wants to. The country should have the opportunity to change its mind as it does at an election. Brexit is far more complicated and dangerous than the Brexiteers want the country to think. That's why they try to shout down those of us who raise the questions they don't want asked and cannot answer. If our Parliament fails to approve a deal, or there is no deal, then everything is in the air, including the possibility of another referendum. We've watched this chaos amongst MPs in the Cabinet and the turmoil in negotiations with dismay and foreboding. None of us voted for a bad deal or no deal that would wreck our economy. Nor should we accept that either is inevitable. If the Brexit deal is rejected by Parliament, or there's no deal, then the people of Britain should have the democratic right to determine our own future. The time is coming for a people's vote, a second referendum on the final outcome and with an option to remain. This time we could all make a properly informed choice, hopefully with an objective and scrutinising BBC, without fake news, without abuse of social media, without broken campaign spending limits, and without Russian or President Trump's interference. The Mayor and Assembly should back this plan. Let the people think again.